It's a little fruit fly monster. This fruit fly tube top. And then the date and Facebook Live.
Is that the right date?
I sure hope so.
So,
Yeah. I think so.
237.
2-3?
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. 3-2.
he changes it quickly.
Yeah.
In Europe.
Would you say that dates are one of the things that the marketing team is best at?
Dates?
Dates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You think so?
They got a big range of.
Oh,
They're flexible.
they're flexible.
If you think about them like that.
He's like, they're just numbers. They can do anything.
It's just numbers. They can increase and decrease.
You can add some, you can subtract
That's right.
some, whatever. People jumping in. Hi, people.
Alta, please.
Alta, please. We got an Alta.
Can you even see that?
So Brent whipped
Yeah.
this guy up in like 5 minutes before the thing, which is pretty cool. That's a free fly monster.
Just waiting for people to come in.
We have a good show today planned. We have 3 guests on the show. Brent will be doing live infographics to help explain the points that we're making. Dennis and Corey from the engineering team will be here to tell me the correct words to use and point out when I don't use the right ones. And then I'll be here to keep things moving along.
High ignited.
High ignited.
Higher iron side.
We're gonna try and do a better job this week because my mom was critical of last week's Facebook, so we're gonna try and up our game this week. Right, Hugh?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
What's that? I can't. It's Brent. Oh,
I can't even see that.
Brent's been working out lately, so if you guys want to sling any comments his way of positivity
Yes,
towards
please.
the workout program, that'd
Please
be great.
comment on my physique.
Well, no, I meant just like good job, keep working out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what Kevin Hart does, though.
But you did commit in a few months you were going to go shirtless for one of these Facebook Lives, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Before and after.
Just after.
Just after. No one wants to see that before.
All right.
He's evil.
Everybody ready?
Ready? So, quick introductions. Brent,
Hey,
digital/marketing guy. What does it say in your signature? Design guy?
Design guy.
Design guy.
Yeah.
Tab. I don't know what I do here. I push things along. Dennis, app/robotics engineer/everything. Corey.
Hey. Hello.
What do you do, Corey? What do you do here?
All sorts of engineering.
Corey
Broad spectrum.
is kind of one of these engineers that does everything from mechanical to embedded to robotics to. One thing you need to know about Corey, though, is he likes to buy the most expensive components for our products. So if you ever wonder why our stuff is so expensive, it's because at every point along the development process, this guy's trying to import some component from Germany, which takes our price way high. So
Only
That's
the
why.
best.
only the best, exactly. What's up?
I can't see questions, so you're going to have to ask. Okay. Yep.
Okay. So, purpose of today's Facebook Live is we're going to discuss upcoming firmware release for Mobi Pro. So on March 6th, the 1.1 firmware will be going stable. So we've gone through the beta test period and had minor bug fixes along the way, and we feel it's good enough to go stable now. But the exciting thing is we'll be releasing 1.2, which will have the API. So that'll allow people, third parties, to interface with Mobi Pro ecosystem more readily. And then also we're releasing support for what we're calling Bush Pilot. So this will start shipping sometime in March, but it's a tiny little knob add-on for Mimic. You can see the fit, like we actually just got the machine parts in right before the show. But so it's a tiny little knob that you can add to Mimic, and you can map this knob to whatever control you want. So you can map it to focus, iris, zoom, and it just bolts on, just quick releases onto the Mimic, plugs in, and gives you the option to control, focus, iris, or zoom just with a knob. So it's really nice. We've been using it for focus. Right now you can see it's set up, I can't actually see, but it's set up on iris. So yeah, so I think the main thing we want to talk about today is we want to just talk through what what an API is, why it's important, why we're excited about it, why we hope you're excited about it. So I thought we'd kind of talk through some use cases for how people might use this stuff. And one thing I want to point out, we've just set these up as examples. We haven't verified or validated that any of these examples will actually work with any of these third-party products. These are just to convey the type of idea that we're talking about. So, you want to talk about like kind of
Just
what an
general.
API is?
Yeah.
Just kind of the hierarchy and the framework here.
Yeah, so an API is an application programming interface, and it's basically just a clearly defined way to allow communications between dissimilar things. So our goal with it is just to open it up and allow people to control each of the phys axes, each of the gimbal axes, and start, stop, and a few other features like that. Just kind of the core features. We thought we'd start there and give people kind of an easy entry point into controlling Movi from all sorts of stuff. It's written in C primarily, the C language. It's pretty hardware independent, so you should be able to include the API module within many different project types, anything from Arduino to STM32 or other ARM microcontrollers to PCs. It's kind of the lowest common denominator of ways to write code. It's just like a very hardware agnostic way. So that was our goal, is just keep it simple, open it up, and I know people have talked about a lot of different ideas for controlling Movi for a long time. So this will give them all those opportunities to do whatever they want.
Yeah, and like Corey said, the strategy for us definitely is to start small with this. So we're keeping it simple. You have the option to control pan, tilt, and roll of the gimbal, focus, iris, and zoom. On pan, tilt, and roll, you'll be able to control absolute angle and rates. And that's kind of the scope of this first release. And we're just going to see how it goes. And if people do things that are awesome with it, maybe we'll consider expanding in the future. But that's what this initial release will be limited to.
Yeah.
So why is this? I mean, from your guys, I know why I think it's important, but from your guys' perspective, why do you think this is important?
A number of reasons. I think personally it helps us organize ourselves a little bit better. Like anytime that you open something up,
Yeah.
forces you to document it and really define it very clearly.
It's like having your parents over for dinner.
Yeah.
You got to clean the house.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big
my
part
house is
of
always
it.
clean.
Yeah, and I mean, it just to create kind of a collaborative atmosphere. We have lots of ideas of ways to control things and things to do, but
Yeah.
other people have those ideas too. I think that's the most exciting thing, is like just kind of being collaborative with people.
Yeah, and for sure, over the years, we've had tons of interesting people write in and say, hey, I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z with the Movi. Can you support that? And we've been such a small company growing quickly and kind of focused on our core product and development that we haven't been able to take on a lot of those requests. So I think the API is a really nice way for us to take a little bit of time, define exactly how the rest of the world can interface with our products, and then really allow them to do things that they want to do that we couldn't enable them to do previously, which is pretty nice. The thing I'm excited about too is people learning how to code, and seeing even people internally screwing around with Arduino and setting stuff up. It's pretty exciting, and I think that could give individuals the option to create custom solutions for the type of shots that they want to execute, which is pretty exciting. So I'm personally excited to see what kind of crazy stuff people come up with that we never expected.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess let's talk through how it'll actually work with Movi Pro, and then along the way, maybe we'll show off a couple examples that we've mocked up today.
Do you want to start with third-party examples we're imagining?
Yeah, so we can start here. So these are the wheels from Alpha Tools. These are awesome. I don't know for sure if this will work exactly how we have it mocked up, just to kind of touch on that point earlier. But one way that you could potentially have a setup with wheels and Mimic in the future would be to have wheels that are wired into Mimic, and then you could also have like iris control here on the Mimic if you wanted to. So the Mimic would be taking the wheels' positional data from the Alpha wheels and then transmitting it to Movi Pro. So this would essentially allow, you know, people to control focus or control pan and tilt and iris or focus or zoom or whatever they wanted to control here. You could pop the mimic off and do other things with it too. So basically, I think the way to think about it, the way I think about it is there's 2 points where you can interact with the Movi ecosystem as a third-party developer. You can wire into the mimic, and that gives you kind of a wireless access point. So you can wire in here using the API, transmit to the Movi Pro, do whatever you need to do. And then similarly, you'll be able to connect to the GCU and connect into these 2 COM ports, and you can wire in there directly. So if you had a thumb controller or some other little accessory that you wanted to prototype, you can come right into here. You won't need to go through the mimic. But those 2 options give you a huge amount of flexibility.
Should we just touch on like the actual hardware of it for a minute too?
Sure.
Yeah, so these are just logic level UART serial ports. So they're like 3.3 volts nominal. They do support, they're like 5-volt tolerant. So you can hook up an Arduino or something that has 5-volt signaling. But it's just a fairly inexpensive connector. So we've published the part number of the connector and the pinout, and that'll come out with the API documentation. And
You can see
can
here
make
on
up custom cables.
On the Bush Pilot here, it's a GH connector, a locking GH connector.
Yep.
So you'll be able to, we sell a bunch of accessory cables on our website. You can buy any of those and cut them and hack them to whatever specification you
Yeah.
want.
Can you control roll with the focus, with the mimic focus wheel?
Of course. Whichever you pick.
Of course. That's a dangerous answer, Dennis.
But just to touch on kind of from a system perspective, if you have a lot of options for getting data from like a control input device to some sort of programmable device like an Arduino or other microcontroller, and then communicating that to the Movi. As long as you have something in between your input type of device and the Movi, you can do pretty much anything. So it's a certainty that you could get all this working as long as you hooked up something in the middle.
Yeah.
Or if each component can support like UART communications, then that'll
Yeah.
definitely work too. So,
My main goal is I don't know for sure.
Right,
Like, if
yeah,
Alpha
yeah.
Wheels is outputting something that is immediately compatible, and I don't
Yeah.
want them to get bombarded with people that say like, hey, how do I hook my mimic up to my Alpha Wheels like the FreeFly guys did?
Yeah.
And then they're like, damn you FreeFly guys.
They need a couple of weeks to implement.
Yeah, they probably need a couple weeks. But the API will be released and published on March 6th. So that's when it's coming. Another idea would be something like, you know, this is a thumb controller from RT Motion. Here's one from Red Rock. But you could have a setup where this was mounted to the Mimic and was, you know, similar to this Bush Pilot thing that we're coming out with. You could potentially mount this, wire it into the Mimic, and have, or even 2 of them, have Mimic plus focus and iris or focus and zoom, whatever you wanted. In the same way, you could mount this to the handle and wire it right into COM1 or COM2 on the Movi and have control there. So I think that's the important point to get across is all these various accessories that exist, they can get on the Movi Pro on-ramp at either the Mimic or at the Movi Pro, like at the actual GCU.
What's cool about that is also you wouldn't necessarily need the receivers from those companies. So if they implement the API, that would directly connect to Movi and directly to TSU. So you wouldn't need to attach an external like focus iris zoom receiver and motor driver.
Yeah, and like as another use case, there's people as you go into the higher echelons of cinema have very strong preferences about what to use. So, for example, first ACs that are comfortable with Preston, we haven't reached out and talked to Preston about this or anything yet, but potentially Preston could output to the Mimic, and then first ACs that are comfortable using the Preston as a hand control could use that combo to control focus, iris, and zoom, and anything else they want to on Movi Pro, which would be, you know, something that they're comfortable with. So that's kind of nice. I like options that allow people to use what they're comfortable with. So I think that's kind of how this could work for wheels. Dennis has mocked up a couple examples that I'll just kind of let him talk through on Movi Pro here. They're pretty cool.
What I'm really excited about is people being able to hack up their own controllers. One of the most exciting thing for me at FreeFly is our customer base. I think a lot of people, most of the people are really creative. They are makers. They like to put things together. That's why we are also releasing an Arduino example, which is pretty much in like 10 lines of code. You can make your own controller like this one. This is something I hacked up together in like 10 minutes to give to our BTS guy for the shoot last Sunday. So this button, I mapped it so that you can hold down to initiate AutoCal on Fizz. So once it's calibrating, the joystick will be controlling focus. Like that. I also mapped the plus and minus for changing the speed. So if you wanted precise control, you could decrease the focus speed, have it more sensitive, and then you could increase it as well. So this was really useful. I couldn't find like a red drag thumb controller. I couldn't find receiver, so this was really easy to make something really quick for the shoot. Another example here is, instead of directly plugging it into Movi, you can plug the same thing to Mimic. Now you have a wireless version of it. Let's see, just plugged in. So that's another example. Pretty much if you took this thing and plugged into Mimic, you would have the same thing but wireless, which is also really exciting. People can make their own Movi controllers, any type of controller they can imagine. Here's another example. What's cool about Arduino is it comes in bajillion different types. This one is a really small one inside this 3D printed prototype, which even lets you upload your code through your iPhone. So you can write 10 lines of code on your iPhone and just upload it. And this one, I just mapped one of the sliders here, which I just 3D printed and put it in. I mapped it so that it controls your tilt position, which I think is really useful for single operator shots where you don't need to put your camera down to adjust your tilt angle with the smooth lock.
See you use it. Pick it up.
I don't have a camera on this one, but
That test mass.
if I wanted like shoot high angle, like I can directly do that. If I wanted to do low angle, I wouldn't need to put the camera down. If it's really heavy to adjust it, I can just adjust like that. I'm ready to go. Again, this was just like 10 minutes of coding, some 3D printed things. You can
I
just
think-
tape it if you want.
One thing to touch on with the examples Dennis has, these are obviously like bare PCBs with very cheap Arduino components, but they're not probably fit to go out on like an actual film production if you need to rely on them. But the cool thing is this stuff is existing. You can buy it on Amazon today, so you can buy it, have it overnighted to you. You can use the 10 lines of code that Dennis is going to provide, and you can have a setup that you can tweak and tune and see what you like. And I think that's really cool for the aftermarket space because you can grab one of these and prototype your concept in a few days and see if there's value to it. And that's one thing we do here quite a bit is we build early rough prototypes, see if we fall in love with the idea or not. And if you don't fall in love with the idea, at least you haven't wasted a ton of time doing custom enclosures and tooling and all that stuff. So I think that part's really cool. And yeah. The other thing I'll say is sometimes people can't really imagine what you want. Like we have customers that describe a specific problem. So for them to really be able to solve that problem and communicate it visually, like sometimes, there's mismatches in understanding between the problem and how to solve the problem. So to be able to quickly solve it and then just show it and say, here's what I'm thinking, like with Dennis, like I want to be able to go low and set the angle, and then I want to be able to go high and also set the angle quickly. Maybe I shoot in a totally different way, so I don't really understand what he's trying to say there. But after you use that for 2 minutes, then you can perfectly understand, and people can communicate easier. So I thought the next thing people might want to know is like, how can you learn more? And we'll be releasing all the info and all the documentation on March 6th. So I think we're kind of still going around in circles a little bit as to how we'll release it, like the exact mechanism, but there will be nice examples. Corey was really impressed with the red RCP documentation.
Yeah.
So we've kind of like set our bar there to make sure we do. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely.
He like runs
Well
off
done.
and goes back to
Well
work.
done, Red.
Yeah, well done, Red. That was awesome. So Corey wrote all the RCP stuff for Movi Pro, and that was awesome to watch because he didn't have to send like a single email or support ticket or anything to Red. He just sat down and did it. Just drank a bunch of iced coffees and then it was done. So one other thing to talk about, your kind of real world examples from using this on your shoot. Dennis organized and executed a shoot last Sunday. Tell us about that. Like, how did it go? You used like Bush Pilot, and then
Yeah,
you used your new-
it was the first time we used Bush Pilot, which was really cool because I used to see people holding Movi controller like sideways, which is really funky. But I love this combo. It's really small. I think you can just put it in your pocket and go on and like pretty much any shoot. You can toggle through different ones if you want to control zoom instead. It's really fast to change what you want to control. So this was really handy on shoot for sure. And then, like I said, I couldn't find a thumb controller that I could connect to Movi directly. So I'm like, we have the API now, why not just make something up? So we had this Arduino Shield. Just in 10 lines of code, I mapped the joystick input to the focus.
And I think next week on Facebook Live, we'll have Dennis do that code live and show. I kind of want to take people from your Arduino Shield came in the mail and show you how to mount it to the handle and get it working. I think that'd be really fun. I'm personally interested to learn too.
Yeah, then I realized it was way too fast to control, so I'm like, I'm gonna put focus speed on this so I have more precise control. Then I'm like, oh, I don't have a Movi controller to do AutoCal. So I mapped the D3, this button, to do AutoCal. And yeah, we pretty much had a thumb controller for the behind the scenes camera. Like, I don't know, 20 minutes? Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's way more useful with that than without it. Like, someone can just operate on their own and be productive all day long. Yeah, interesting. All right, I think that kind of, any questions come through that we want to hit?
Any chance of getting the focus wheel for, any chance of getting the M5 capable of using the PS4 controllers?
No, not right now. Not in the near term. It doesn't have the hardware to support that. Any other questions?
Someone's curious about the bumper, the toe hitch that was used for the black arm.
The bumper. Oh, we can go over and check it out. It's a bit embarrassing right now. So I'm going off memory here, so I might not remember all the vendors, but this adapter from a trailer hitch to Mitchell comes from, I think it's called LSK Performance. I did a blog post or a Medium post where I describe how to do this, so you can look there. I'm sure Evan will post a link for it. And then this comes from GripTech. I don't believe that they have this exact part on their website, but I think enough people have bought them at this point that if you send them an email and say, we want the thing that the FreeFly guys use on the front of their truck, they'll know what you're talking about. These are just stock tubes. And then we've got the black arm, and we've actually had to put an extension here to space it out a little bit farther, just because Movi Pro is so big that when it kicks back, we didn't want it to actually hit, because we're getting pretty wild with it with testing right now. So yeah, that's how we have this guy currently set up, and then we've triangulated to the roof rack on the Tundra. Hasn't fallen off yet, shockingly. No one's died with this, and it hasn't fallen off. So hopefully that continues. Other important points to touch on, kind of what we're hoping to have happen with API is we want people to come up with stuff that we've never thought about. That would be really great to see. I want productions to create specific solutions for tough shots that they have. Like, you see these guys like from Cinemoves and Motion State and all these, they're kind of these like shot specialist type guys. And the more flexibility and creativity we allow them, I think they'll do more and more amazing things, which is really great. I want people to experiment with Arduino, get really good with it, then move on to embedded microcontrollers and become really proficient and awesome, and then I want them to come work at FreeFly. So that's one goal that people usually won't say out loud, but I definitely will. And then I want Movi Pro to become an even better tool for people. And you know, we've solved one part of a big problem. and in the camera movement space. And in order to create a system that's really like a beautiful tool for operators to use, it needs to have almost unlimited flexibility, and we're not going to be able to build that all out ourselves. So we're hoping with the addition of the API and the help from third-party developers and partners that we can turn this thing into the hub of just an amazing camera movement ecosystem, and then, you know, hopefully all the same stuff carries over to Movi XL. So other things I have to touch on, say hi to my mom. Hi, Mom. Thanks for letting me take apart all the crap that you had as a child. I probably wouldn't have ended up here if you'd said no. FreeFly's hiring. Go to freeflysystems.com/careers if you're interested in joining this team and potentially being put on Facebook Live in the future. And then Movi XL. We're still testing every day and going through our engineering validation. There's an interest form if you are interested in Movi XL. We haven't set final pricing. We're thinking it's going to be around 20,000. So don't hold me to that, but you know, we're drilling down to a more accurate price day by day. So if you're interested in it, send in a contact on that form, and we'll follow up with information. What else? I think that's about it. Thanks to Corey and Dennis for joining today. These guys are super busy with actual engineering tasks, and we're nice to take some time out and chat with us. Brent, thanks for the rapid intro sign. Do you want to do an outro? You want to do an outro graphic? No, we should do it.
Okay.
You're going to see Brent live in action. Outro.
Now, well, what's going on here?
Evan, you could come and give real-time feedback, like about his work, like what you like, what you don't like.
Working at FreeFly?
No, for Brent, for Brent's work.
He's got a long way to go.
He's got a long way to go. Uh-oh. Anyway, thanks for. No, this is good. This is gold. You can't feel it because you're watching through the web, but there's just.
Just out. Facebook Live out.
All right, someone's got to push the button then.
Thanks. See you next Thursday.